In this video, I'm going to show you a great system for installing a brand new door in a really old house. Welcome to my new front door. This is a balloon construction house. We're not exactly sure what we're going to find beneath the siding because this house, of course, is 130, 40 years old and is layer on layer. So our first job here today is to pull all this siding off and expose back to the original siding of this house, which we hope is still there and hope is still in decent shape. And then we'll see what we have to do to go from there. So as you can see, there originally was a door here, unbeknownst to us. So that changes our approach a little bit. So originally, I think our door is going to go somewhere around here. And our plan was to remove these boards where our door was going so that we can install our door with our brick mold flush up against the board. So we're going to continue with that. I'm just going to drill my four corners from the inside and that'll outline it. And then we're going to throw on our laser line and we'll remove all the panels here. I think we'll leave the rest of this board on today just for good measure, but we're definitely going to end up removing all of it and putting new siding. All right, so here's our basic steel masonite door, 6-panel, steel, nothing fancy about this, but what we're going to do in another video at a later date is we're going to cut this hole out and we're going to go with a full glass insert. It'll save you a ton of money, so we'll show you that another day, but for now, if you measure off the bottom metal sill here, you're going to find that it's the same measurement, exact, as what they say the door is. So this is a 36-inch door. I've got a 36-inch plate down there. And when you add your brick mold, you actually bring it right up to the side of that. Okay? So when you're measuring this, it's really simple math. You measure your sill plate plus your brick mold, which is 2 inches. That's standard. Yours might be different, but for us it's 2 inches, both sides. So I've got a 36 plus 2 plus 2. It's a 40-inch hole. Very simple. Now, since we're going to be replacing this particular siding with something at a later date, we're going to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. But if you were installing on something that was absolutely pristine condition, you could just add a 1/4 inch to this hole and have an 1/8 inch gap on each side, and then finish all that off with a bit of polyurethane caulking, and you'd be good as gold. But for us, we're going to go with a 40-inch hole, and we're going to add probably a 1/2 inch, and then we'll be able to install this bad boy in just a few minutes. So inside, I'm just going to go mark my center line where I want the door, and then I'm going to measure 20 inches from each side. I'm going to drill the holes and then cut it out with a Sawzall, and then we're pretty much ready to go. Now we have a door. I don't think there's any wood on there that we can save, that we want to save. No, we're not going to try to salvage any of this. What does this weigh? About 150 pounds? Jeez Louise. Let's go, yeah, that works. 1, 2, 3. Flip it. Okay, so this is one of the challenges you have when you're dealing with such an old structure. Foundations is settling, there's nothing square or level in a new home. Try 140 years old, like seriously. The goal here is to try to create an area where any moisture that gets in behind the exterior of the building or in behind the framing of the door is going to follow the path of least resistance. So we want to create a path of resistance so that it follows back outside of the building again. And this is where this blueskin product comes in. This is just magic stuff, right? if you haven't seen this before, I'd be surprised. What I'm doing is I'm going to create an area of blueskin inside the building, and it's not going to stick very well with this old wood, but that's going to be fine. Now my goal here is actually to, at a later date, I'm going to pull all the wood off this facade from this row of boards down. And we're going to install cement board, probably 3 layers a ½ inch. And we'll bring that right up underneath this blueskin, and then we'll wrap that over top. But if your building is in solid condition, then what you do is you just wrap this over the facade, okay? And that's your exit point. We're going to install this here. This is about the spot where the door closes, where people actually, if they step on the transition, are going to stand on it. And now that we have that done, I'm going to take my last layer. Now, okay, so here we go. Now we've got a membrane. And you're going to see what I'm doing is I'm creating an environment here where the water gets in. It's going to run down. It's going to hit this plate, and instead of coming into the building, because the house is sloped and it's sloped in, it's going to come into this area here and then be directed out. Okay, that is the secret. This is what we call the Jeff approved method. You're not going to find this on that website anywhere in the world. So the other thing you want to do is you want to seal up the side of your house. What I'm going to do is start from the bottom and work my way up. That way I can be confident I have enough to finish the job at the bottom here. And this stuff actually stretches around pretty good. So you can manipulate it and mold it according to what you need. This stuff sticks really good to new wood, not so good to old wood. Just staple the bugger on until you get the time to get the tie bar, and then you can red tape it all in. So now the house is sealed up. Yay. Once we get to the next step, and we'll talk about it when we go do the siding, about finishing the water diversion system, what we want to focus on is down here. When we install our door jamb, right, we're going to be foaming insulation spray all the way down, so water won't go past that. It'll be directed down the front on the inside of this 1x3, and then the only place it'll go is it'll run this way because the building slopes that way, and it'll find the exit here. It's the only option it has. That's why it's going to work so effectively. When we put the door in, we're going to use these cedar shims, and we'll build up this corner to get the level point, and then block a few other points along the way, about every 6 inches. That'll give it some strength. We'll foam that gap. We're good to go. So I'm a little spoiled rotten here today because I got my helper doing all the heavy lifting. But if you don't have somebody to help you, I'm going to show you a little secret. What we do is we attach a 2x4 near the top of the door across the framing opening. Remember, the jamb size on your door is not thicker than your whole wall package. So you can actually set it in place, and then we can put another 2x4 across in front. That allows you to manipulate the door and get it level and square and shimmed and everything just the way you want it. And then you can remove, once you've got it screwed in, then you can remove all this extra framing. Brilliant. So really all you have to do here is set up your level. Once you've got your level established, then it's about making everything flush, as long as the wall is relatively plumb. So we're going to go like this, right off the edge of my frame on the corner here. And I'm going to show my laser line. And I'm just going to lift this side with shims underneath the jamb, which is where you need the support, and half of this plate. The reason for that being, you want support both on the jamb that's carrying part of the door and on the plate when people step on it, it transfers down to a frame. And the lever. Put the shims in backwards, the 2 ramps. When I slide them together, it creates a perfect little rectangle and makes the door nice and flat, nice and flush. So all we do now is I hold the bottom shim and I push the top one in while I'm lifting up the weight to make it thicker, and hopefully put this where I want it. Ah, nice. This is just a matter of trial and error. There we go. Nice and plumb. We know that if this door is level here, most likely if that's plumb there, then this is probably level here. Let's throw the cross line laser on. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. This is the benefit of having a laser. You can use a level to create plumb as much as you like, but when you're installing a door and you have a laser, you are guaranteed a perfect result every single time. So now that I got my plumb line, I know my door fits the hole, everything's comfortable. I just trace the line where the door is flush. I put this line where that shim goes together, and I know that that combination of shim is the same thickness here as it is here as it is underneath the door. So as long as these two lines are at the door and at the other shim, no matter where I put this door in a minute, it's going to be perfect. Okay, so we can get rid of all of this now, and we can remove our extra 2x4 here. So remember, there's a 2x4 keeping the door from falling out on that side. All right, so what you want to do to install your door is open your door up right there. Set it on your 2x4, find another couple pieces of blocks, maybe a few shims, set up a nice line. All right, we'll throw the laser on this. We're just going to throw it on the detail of the door. It's not flush yet. I'm just going to take a couple more shims until it's plumb. In really old houses, getting anything perfectly plumb is tricky. Sometimes the more important issue is flush. Like outside, we really want to have our brick mold flush to the outside of the house. It's not plumb, so our door isn't going to go in perfectly plumb. But at this point, the only issue it has is if it's left open a crack, it might have the tendency to open a little bit more, which is fine. I'd rather live with that and make sure that the outside of this door is completely plumb and flush. Flush gives me waterproof. So if you have to choose between plumb and flush, go with flush every time. Now we're just going to take a few shims. You can see that there's a lot of room to play here. Right from this side all over this side. We want to get these things in here about every 4 inches. So that when anybody steps on this, there's a direct load transfer from this plate into the shim to the wood. And that will keep everything from breaking apart and opening up gaps over time that will cause nasty drafts. There we go. You don't want to lift this, you just want to create contact. It's really easy to over shim, and then you end up creating a bow and then your door won't seal properly. We're not going to foam the bottom until we have the entire door frame screwed in, because if we did cause a bow, we won't know until we go to close the door. So we're going to get the rest of the door installed first, and then we'll come back to it. So the door comes a little package with the missing hinge screws. And the idea here is you put shims in behind these and you use this as your anchoring point. So really the whole goal here is just get the shims in where they're snug, back it up, and then come from this side so that you keep everything square. All right. And before we drive these screws in, we'll throw the laser level on it one more time real quick just to confirm. Whoops. There we go. We want it snug. Remember, if it's not snug, when you drive the screw, it'll pull it in tighter. You'll get a bow. That looks pretty good. I don't know if those screws are long enough, but we'll see. Come on, baby. What we want to do is we want to put a screw on this jamb, but we don't want to put it here where it's visible. We want to bury it where it's not ever going to be covered up. So if you ever have to make adjustments, you have access to it. Remember, as the house moves and breathes and stretches and expands, you might want to make adjustments to your door over time. So what we want to do is pull this out of the way gently. Okay, take your shim and hold it right there. And then take your screw right up against that shim. And then when you release this, it should basically cover everything up. Now, a new door is always going to have a really good seal on the bottom. All right, now you can see what your gap looks like here. So we know how much to manipulate this jamb. So you really want to do 3 locations on your jamb: the bottom, middle, and top. If you need to add another one to get rid of a warp, you can, but let's start with the first 3. Okay. Okay. Okay, gap is good, opens up too much. Right? Not a problem. What we do is we're just going to back this out and put in another one. There we go. That's the beautiful thing about shims. You can adjust down to a 32nd of an inch with a great deal of confidence. Beautiful. Gap across the top is nice and consistent. Okay, so really now what we have to do is just add our shims to the bottom again. Okay. Put the thick side through. And then I'm just trying to eyeball to put 4 inches under. And then I'm going to come up and meet up. Okay. Woo! The best part of working with new doors is these brick molds. They're designed to follow this little line that's in the trim. There's a little line detail here, and that's where your trim stops and starts. So you have something to measure to. Generally speaking, they come out of the box already pre-cut, perfect height for the door. All you have to do is cut the width. So you can line it up on that line, put your inside corner on that line, and then fire away. Now, because of the age of this house, even though we set it up flush, it only gets so close, right? So what you want to do is be easy on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get it perfectly flush. If you're going to put in a piece of poly bead here anyway, or some quad or some sort of exterior caulking before you paint. Okay, that's that side. Let's grab the other side. There we go. Now we measure the top. So measure outside to outside. It's a lot easier to cut on the saw that way. I'm looking at 39 3/4. I think will be perfect. Let's go see if we can make a cut. This is pre-made for a 36-inch door. Now 36 is not the most common door size in the world, but I'm using it as a front door. And I'm setting it up so that it's easy to move furniture in and out of the house at a later date. So there's no reason to cut this down. Just all as is. This is going to be absolutely crazy. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Doors trimmed. Crazy. That's awesome. Okay, so last part is the foaming. And of course, I love my gun. This is the kind of thing that every homeowner DIYer should use, because you can stick this in really small spaces. The idea is you don't want to install your foam from here and try to push it to the other side. You'll end up over foaming. And you're not concerned if the foam gets all the way to the other side, because your thermal break on this wall is where the door is. The door is only R5. Nothing you can do about that. You can spend as much money on the door as you want. They're R5. Wood or glass, R5. So you want your insulation to be in line with the thermal break. So what I do is I am on an angle, and I'm just shooting a door and window bead that's going to have some expansion, and I want it to expand towards the front and towards the rear at the same time. And the trigger on this gun gives you an incredible amount of control. To give you an idea, I can really shoot a lot of foam out of this gun in a hurry. Okay? But just a little bit of pressure on that trigger lets you fill the gap at the speed that you're comfortable with. This gets rid of the air gap and the draft. It's not going to give you any structural support. That's what the cedar's for. Okay, don't rely on the foam, because it will not carry the load all by itself. Remember, if you use too much, you can just trim it off later. Now, if I need a lot, I can use a lot. This is designed for low expansion. It's not going to cause the door to buckle. grab yourself a hot coffee on a day like today and just let it dry. Now, I'm also going to take a ladder and I'm going to shoot up a front, get a good seal there. Whew. Tomorrow's job is I'm going to cut these blocks out and put in a proper header, and then I'll film that as well. And when you're done, just close the handle and it seals this up way up here at the top of the shaft. So it's ready to be used again tomorrow. Just make sure you store it upright or all the gas will leak out and then it won't work. Okay, so the only thing left to do with this door is to install all the hardware. That's for another video because I'm going to buy a key lock passage set. I got to drill my own hole and I have to drill a hole for my beautiful handle, and I'm going to show you all how to do that the next time. So make sure to check out all the videos on our modern rustic farmhouse remodel and don't forget to subscribe.